All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to the December Town of Ocean Ridge meeting. Kelly, would you call the roll, please?
Sure will. Commissioner Ayala,
Here.
Commissioner Hutchins,
Here.
Commissioner Cassidy. Here. Vice Mayor Cos.
Here.
And Mayor Pugh.
Here. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the menu?
Menu?
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
I'm still thinking about Thanksgiving.
yes, Mayor. I would like to please move from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, just for some additional explanation. Item number 10.
Okay. Moving item number 10.
And I'd also just like to make some quick comments at the end.
So we'll make item number 10. How about we make that number 14?
I don't think we should move
Okay.
because we already spent the money, right? There's nothing we can do about it.
It might be good to just explain why we're spending that money.
Well,
It's,
there's if anybody else, they can take a vote who wants to leave it on there, take it off.
We had the discussions about who was responsible and all that. I did get some explanation from Christie around that,
say,
I think. I don't know, Carolyn, if you got that same stuff about it.
But everybody talk to the staff about it. Davies, talk to the staff.
I did, and I don't see a need to discuss it further, but if it's the pleasure of everyone else here.
I don't
why not?
object to talking about it further.
Well, we do have an objection, so we're gonna have to take a vote on it. So those in favor of taking it off and putting it on the regular agenda, say aye.
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 Okay, those who want to leave it on the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Right, it stays on the consent.
thank you. I have two discussion points, commissioner discussion points at the end.
To Commissioner Cassidy first. Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on, presentation and proclamations. Now, before we get started, we also want to congratulate our two commissioners for winning an election we didn't have to have, saving the town money. It just shows how well your job you're doing. Great job. Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Moving on to
The announcements. May I ask? Mr. Mayor, may I ask?
Mhm.
With that vote that just happened, is that an acceptance of the agenda vote?
Thank you for pointing that out.
Just requesting.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
The agenda.
As so said.
Nope.
Is there a second?
That wasn't the consent agenda, that's the
No.
overall agenda.
Right.
I second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Getting all over the place today. All right, presentations and proclamations.
I'll do announcements. The meeting schedule for the next month is as follows. The regular town commission meeting has been moved to Monday, January 12th at 6 p.m. The code enforcement hearing will be tomorrow, December 2nd at 10 a.m. Planning and zoning board will meet Tuesday, December 16th at 9 a.m. And all meetings are held in the commission chambers at Town Hall. The 2025 special general election for District 90 will be held on Tuesday, December 9th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the community room here at Town Hall. And as the mayor had said, the annual municipal election in March 2026 has been canceled as there were only two candidates that qualified for the two open town commissioner seats. Congratulations to Commissioner Cassidy and Commissioner Hutchins, who will serve as town commissioners for another 3-year term and will be sworn in at the April meeting. Please join us on Friday, December 5th from 5 to 7 p.m. for the annual Light the Lights holiday event, which will be held here at the Town Hall. Town Hall will be closed Thursday, December 25th and Friday, December 26th in observance of the Christmas holiday, as well as Thursday, January 1st, 2026 in observance of the New Year. And all residents who wish to sign up to receive important town notifications and news through Civic Ready should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for more information.
All right, public comment. Terry Brown? We don't love you, Terry.
I'm invited to attend, these meetings. People say I have to show up. So,
There wasn't public comment.
I can comment on number 10 on the consent agenda.
Yes, you.
I'm not prohibited from any rule that I know of. And what I wanted to say is, I don't know what kind of internal discussions you had, is that those folks did a fantastic job. They really did. It's part of our infrastructure, and as far as I know, and the price seems reasonable. This is going to happen all the time. There's going to be more of these types of emergency repairs. So the one thing on the contract is that where Michelle signed it, it says the town of,
I caught
okay. So good. Someone just needs to strike it out and put Ocean Ridge. The other thing is number 11, the loan application, is that the similar loan application as the one that happened with the South End pump station and all of the pipes that went in down there? Or is it's a different category of loan? First of all, did we pay off that loan yet?
No, it's coming up.
And but we paid off the town hall. So you got some extra cash that you would have normally be sending to the bank. So my question is, we don't know how much that loan will be for. Someone's going to do an assessment and come up with a dollar amount or millions of dollars amounts, and then you're going to
Millions.
borrow money based on that?
Michelle?
Mr. Mayor. So yes, we have to actually start the process of just speaking with the state itself, and the state wants to know what our anticipated costs will be.
Right.
And based on our current economic outlook and what our savings are and what the project is, they'll come back with not only the amount of the loan possible, but also the interest rate.
Right.
So the request today for this resolution is just to allow staff to start that work. So the state of Florida and the state revolving fund, they will not even work or have discussions with local municipalities unless they know that the commission has approved moving forward on those discussions.
Well, once the town is approved because of its revenue and increased revenue for all of these big houses that we're building, there's money pouring in here. You will be told by the state that your credit is good and you can get a loan up to a certain amount of money. That's what I'm asking. Is that the
Yes.
way it works? Or do you just,
There will be a ceiling. They will
Yeah.
put a limit, and I don't anticipate,
I mean, it's an infrastructure project.
right?
So the town owns the pipes, and this has been a discussion for 30 years since I've been here. So I was just wondering how that would work. There's a Florida statute that requires if certain projects that are quote infrastructure exceed $35,000 in engineering costs and $350,000 in cost, that you have to kind of open it up to other. You can't just stay on one vendor.
Well, you gotta do a request for bids and everything else.
I don't know exactly what the process is, but there's a state statute, and I think Christie would know. Anyway, those are the two comments that I have on that agenda. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, and I want to congratulate Commissioner Cassidy and Dave Hutchin. It was a wonderful campaign. No one had to say anything. No fights, no signs.
No signs. Anyone else for public comment? Hey, Betty?
Look at that.
You realize about the first 20 years of Ocean Ridge, they had a loan that they only paid off the interest on. It wasn't until 1960 that they had a bond issue to pay off the loan to the Palm Beach Bank. So I hope that commissioners don't get their mindset that we don't have to pay off loans, we just pay off the interest. That's the back.
Yes.
Thank you, Betty. Anyone else? All right, go close public comment and bring it back to the commission to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I second the approval of the consent agenda.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, moving on to our regular agenda items. Approval of unity of title. Guess I would go to you, Kristen.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a unity of title for 50 Coconut Lane. It's a little bit of a different situation. You know, normally the unity of titles we use to ensure that two lots that are put together to be developed as one lot, that we have a unity of title so that down the road, if they ever decide to split up the lots, the town commission has control over their ability to do that. So with 50 Coconut, as you can see on the screen, the aerial, they have an interesting little parcel that's added to their current parcel control number with the property appraiser's office that gives them a little bit more square footage. So initially, when they applied for a unity of title, because there's discussion of redeveloping the property, they wanted the unity of title to include this little parcel to the north there. Initially, the town engineer, myself, agreed that it should not be included, but then the zoning official pointed out that there's actually language in our code which typically has applied to the properties on Old Ocean that are separated from, say, the ridge part of their property by right of way, that they get that first 1,000 feet of that parcel to go towards their overall square footage. The way that provision is written, it doesn't exclude this scenario from happening. So for this unity of title, it includes both lots that make up the larger parcel and that additional parcel to the north. And for purposes of redevelopment, that additional parcel will add 1,000 square foot to their calculations. So we recommend approval of the unity of title. Happy to answer any questions.
Question?
Motion.
I move to approve the unity of title for 50 Coconut Lane consistent with section 64-1 J6.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Public comment? I was faking you out.
I don't know, Terry Brown, Harvard I South. I don't know if you know it, but years ago, they wanted, some crazy people wanted that Boynton Beach Bridge to be moved over to that right of way that's there now. Of course, it was only 20 feet, but they wanted to take part of the rest of the property under eminent domain. That was crazy. But anyway, the 1,000 feet that Christie's talking about that gets added to the two main lots, for practical purposes, that would add to the floor area ratio calculation, as she pointed out. But when I did the calculations, using my Lakewood High School math, it turns out that they could have almost a 12,000, if they're going to tear down. Some people say they were going to rehab, but it appears they're redeveloping. So they're going to tear down. They can put a 12,000 square foot structure there. Now, why anyone would put a structure like that in that neighborhood on Coconut where there's no CMs, I mean, it's crazy. But there's going to be a big structure there if that's what happens. So I wanted to be sure people in the neighborhood, I know some people that live on that street, that they know that that's a possibility, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to challenge Terry. That street was the only street in Ocean Ridge that had sidewalks and lighting, and that's where the bridge was supposed to go originally. And I think Old Main Boynton objected to it, so they put it where they did. But to some extent, the bridge really belongs there.
Let's move.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty.
You know who was signing it?
Any other public comment? Back to the commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on to number 13. Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request for approval of ordinance 2025-07 on first reading. What this ordinance proposes to do is to create a incentive program that would be available for single-family residential developments within the town where the town is in need of a utility and or drainage easement. As you know, the town has in the past been looking at several properties in town where either the town needs an easement for facilities that are not located on the property, or there's facilities already located on the property, but there's no recorded easement for the town to do any work on the property. So what this seeks to do is to give these property owners where the town requests an easement, the ability to increase the floor area ratio for new development or redevelopment of their properties. So as you can see in the proposed ordinance, for parcels that are up to 20,000 square feet in the single family residential district, currently they have a maximum FAR of 36%, the floor area ratio. For properties that are above 20,000 square feet, they have a maximum floor area ratio of 32%. The proposed ordinance would create sort of a tiered approach to allow for properties to increase their FAR up to a certain percentage based on the town's request for an easement. So the way the process would work under the proposed ordinance would be a property owner is requested by the town to provide an easement. The property owner is in the process of redeveloping. So they prepare their plans, perhaps consistent with the incentive offered under the ordinance for an increase in the floor area ratio. That would still go before planning and zoning for planning and zoning to do its development plan review, which it does sort of as the town's architectural review board. If the planning and zoning board approved the plans, including an increase in the FAR as shown on the plans, then the matter would move forward through building permit. The town commission would have to accept the easement prior to the building permits being issued. And as we've done in the past, when the town is granted an easement, it comes before the town commission to formally accept so that there's a formal documentation that the easement's been accepted and then it gets recorded. So in essence, what this is to do is to incentivize those property owners to perhaps grant the town an easement where otherwise there's not really much of an incentive to do so. Please keep in mind that this proposed ordinance is only for floor area ratio. The proposed development or redevelopment would still have to comply with all other development requirements, including your setbacks, your open space, your lot coverage, your height, and all those types of calculations that go into determining whether or not they're compliant with the town's land development code.
Christie, we'd expect this to be a small number.
Is this commissioner comment now?
You gotta,
Are we in commissioner comments? Or?
you gotta wait,
Oh, I can't ask a question.
I'm gonna wait till you get the comments next. You would.
Okay.
Weaven.
That was the end of my presentation.
Now you can talk. So is there a motion? For approval? But we'll do it.
I think we have that
After the motion.
conversation.
We do.
Don't we have the conversation
you-
before the motion?
No, wait, Jeff does.
So please do a motion first so we can get to the comment.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-07 on first read.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, public comment.
No.
None? Commissioner comment, back to commission. All right. All yours.
In reading through this, it looked like this would be kind of fairly rare circumstance. We would not expect this to be a whole bunch of these types of requests. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say. As of right now, we know of potentially two other properties besides 62 Harbor Drive North, that this would apply to. But as, you know, things change in town, given drainage issues and flooding issues, there may become a need that this is utilized more by the town. But the whole premise for this is the town has to make the request for the easement.
So when you and I spoke, I was asking you some questions about it. I wanted to make sure since it's going to be fairly infrequent that this would happen, that there was an opportunity in each one of the instances for the commission to express an opinion, to approve or not. I think I heard you say that at some stage of that, either through the easement or something, we would have that opportunity. Is that correct?
Well, the thing with this process is that when the Planning and Zoning Commission will review it, they have a set criteria within their development plan review that they review every development or redevelopment. And that includes looking at things as the compatibility with the, local neighborhood, the massing and, things like that, that give them the ability to say, ooh, we don't like the way this looks. Is there a way you could change this, create more, fenestration or what have you? And they have that ability. If we want to give the town commission that sort of capability, what I would recommend is that we create similar criteria for the town commission to have ultimate approval. Because what you don't want to do is create a land development regulation where you have arbitrary or unfettered discretion to approve something or deny it. So if the town commission also wants to have the ability to look at it and say yes or no, then what I would recommend that then the town commission review it after P and Z reviews it to give it similar criteria under the development plan review. That would be my recommendation if you want that additional level of review at the town commission level. The other thing that I mentioned is that thinking about this process from a property owner standpoint, they go to development plan review and they really have design documents. They don't have their construction documents ready yet. So maybe their construction's documents are about 50% based on the preliminary design. Once they get approval from planning and zoning, then usually they send their architects and contractors to finish up those construction drawings to submit then for building permits. So it's a crucial time period for the property owner once they get planning and zoning review to really spend more money towards actually going for the building permits. So if you add another layer of review that could come before the town commission, it puts a little bit of a disjuncture in that process for the property owner. Not something that they couldn't get over and something that we could set on the next town commission agenda, but keeping in mind you only have one meeting a month. It may delay something for a month where they get planning and zoning approval and then they've got to wait another month to go before the commission to get final sign off on the easement approval.
So I have a question.
I have some
Please.
comments too. So what order should we do this?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to say generally, my understanding, and I know that planning and zoning is looking at a massing study, and we've been trying to get away from the seeming massing and maxing out of properties in town. I know that, when a builder buys a property, they are sure they're concerned with aesthetics, but they want to maximize their use of the lot. There were two ordinances that we passed in 2023 that had to do with zoning. And they were very thoughtful. It took 7 months for us to get through all the intricacies of those. And they affected a handful of properties. This is a blanket ordinance for the entire community that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what commission is going to be sitting here. We don't know what commission is going to be sitting on P and Z. Alternatively, we have been talking about abandoning the right of way behind the properties on Harbor Drive North. And that we were all in agreement, I thought that would be acceptable. And then we pivoted from that. And I understand there's some urgency with obtaining this easement. And we also have an uncooperative homeowner. But to build an ordinance because of one property owner, because we need it now, I think is a mistake. And I did some calculations here on 62 Harbor Drive North specifically. I passed them out to all of you. And with 36% FAR on his lot size, he can build out to 4234. I thought that he had submitted plans for review. I'm not sure if the number is right at 4,700. Whatever he submitted, I know it was in excess of 36%. If we allow him a 42% FAR, he's building a 5,200 square foot house. And while that doesn't sound like a huge difference, when you're already starting at a first floor elevation of 10 feet or whatever it is on that property, that is massive. If we abandon the right of way, he has his property line along the right of way is about 110 feet long. So he gains 1,100 square feet of property. He could, with the FAR of 36%, then build a 4,600 square foot house, which is what he's seeking to build. So if we abandon the right of way, as we had discussed before, he can build what he wants, and then we can even talk to him about his dock, which is illegally perched off of the right of way. So that I would like everybody to consider that maybe we could put this off for a month and fine tune it a little bit and look into abandoning the right of way as an alternative. I just think passing a blanket ordinance when we don't know what can happen in the future, that I think it's irresponsible. Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I had a question. If we give somebody the authorization to have an expanded FAR and everything's going real well and he's been approved by us, and then all of a sudden he says, I'm broke, I can't do it. I've got to sell this lot. So when he sells the lot, does the new buyer have that opportunity to, is he locked into it, or is there something that would be up for review again?
We have the easement, yeah.
Locked in, right?
Well, you'd be locked in because it's an ordinance.
And well, we give it in exchange for
Right.
consideration, I guess.
That's
We
actually-
we could address that in the ordinance, not currently addressed. I would say, based on its current draft, that they would be locked in. However, I think you bring up a good point too, because often what happens is someone will get plan approval. They may even get building permit approval and then not go forward with it. There's a period of time that those still would remain in effect and they would have vested rights. But if the development plan review expired, they would have to go back through. At that point, the easement's been granted and there's no further request for another easement that I would be aware of. So there could be an argument that they wouldn't be guaranteed that additional FAR because the easement's already been granted by a prior property owner.
Is that something that you
We
could
could address
possibly
that.
straighten it out?
Certainly address that in the language and make it clear.
But just, back to what I was talking about, we had been talking a month ago about abandoning the right of way. And now we're here with first draft of an ordinance, first reading of an ordinance before us that we didn't request. And I just would like to have some, acknowledgement that there are other options and perhaps consideration that we could look at other options in the next month. I mean, this has been going on since 22. So could we take another month and have some more in-depth discussions and look at alternatives and what's the most responsible way to proceed on this?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I did go back and look at the plans they submitted for review on November 10th of this year. And their proposed FAR is at 41% at 4,835 square feet. So with the addition of the abandonment property, they would still not have enough to make that amount.
It's pretty close though. 200 square feet's like a closet.
It's 500 square feet that they really get through the incentive program to go to
But I'm
42.
saying if we abandon the right of way and they use that additional square footage computing their FAR, they have 4,600, 4,630 square foot house.
Agree, you're absolutely right. And one of the things I think that we talked about was, is it an idea to maybe go ahead and abandon that right away and then in the ordinance, cut the FAR increases down further? So that, maybe for 10,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet, they don't go up to 42%, instead they go to 40%. There's a combination you can do there. My concern is that looking at what the owner's proposing and the abandonment, it still doesn't get us a resolution.
Are we anticipating, if he submitted plans with 41% FAR, knowing that he's restricted to 36% FAR, do we really think we're even going to get any agreement with him?
Well, we've been in conversation with them, and part of our conversation was talking about, initially, they felt like they had to set back their redevelopment from the easement area farther than where they had originally planned for. In doing so, they wanted to know what would be the concessions on the town side and getting its easements in return. And that's where we had a meeting with the town engineer and we were looking at different options of how to make this work for everybody. And what they submitted as after that conversation was to make sure that the proposed structure was within the setbacks, comply with everything else, but the one thing that it didn't comply with was the floor area ratio as proposed. It has cut down because the plans that we saw right after that discussion was at 42%. So they've cut it down even further to 41%. And like I said in the memo, you know, the floor area calculation that our zoning official does gets into very specific measurements. And even the FAR calculation that's done at development plan review isn't always the same as the FAR calculation done for building permits. Because obviously the construction docs are going to be much more specific in terms of linear square footage. So that's where we're at. It's at your pleasure with the board wants to do.
I want to know how we so quickly veered off the abandonment of the right of way.
Mr. Mayor, if I can try and say, I'm going to say what Christie said a different way. How did we veer off of the abandonment? We thought that was a great idea. And again, Christie came up with the idea of the abandonment because she took a look at historically what the town had done in the past. And on Harbor Drive South, there's an area of right of way that mimics and mirrors what's happening on Harbor Drive North. And in a couple decades ago, a commission did abandon that right of way. And so the solution seemed like history has shown that it was a good idea. So let's do that. So we liked the idea of the abandonment. At the time, it was not appealing to the town engineer. She was concerned about drainage issues. Simultaneously, we were meeting with the property owner and the town engineer and legal. Literally, we had probably 10 people at this meeting to try to keep moving it forward. This is a project from 2022 that's been on neutral and is about to be dead. And so this meeting was a meeting that we had where I was calling for a solution. That's where we were. And we were not getting there with the abandonment because the homeowner, like it or not, knows we need that easement and says, this is the house my wife wants. It includes a bigger closet and was kind enough to give us the drawings and the renderings of what it looks like from the outside and showed that in essence, you wouldn't see the additional 500 square feet, but just abandoning the right of way alone doesn't get us where we need to be. Now, if you abandon the right of way and you gave some concessions on the FAR, it would get us there. There's additional, I mean, we could go down all these different avenues on FAR. Many cities and towns have gone away from using FAR and just use these other metrics options, your green space, your setbacks, your heights, because it's an exercise in math at the end of the day. And many towns, I like this one, where they take a look at what the second level is. And rather than give a overall percentage of, say, this random 36 to 42%, they say your second level must be no more than 75% of what your first.
Well, that's
what ours is.
but they have FAR also.
But I like that without even having to have a FAR. And then your other metrics do work into the math equation. So how did we get here was your question. And I'm trying to explain that we just weren't able to move the project forward. We were dying. That project was dying in that room that day. And so we said, what does it take for you to give us this easement? And it was the 500.
So
extra
Michelle,
square
so
feet.
I appreciate the history and how we got there, and that's helpful. The only thing I was looking at is, it looks like we're trying to solve a problem, but I want to make sure there are unintended consequences that we just can't foresee.
Exactly.
And so I would like us to, spend some time thinking about it. Either, like Dave said, having an exploding easement so that if those people don't build it, it goes away. Or having us have some final say each time so that we don't find out in 5 years, oh my God, what did we do? We've, because of the change in the flood zones or whatever, this is coming up all the time and these developers are building bigger houses. would
I-
like there to
and
not
I
be
would-
unintended.
I would say-
consequences.
I'm sorry. The town attorney and I agree with both of you that we don't want to rush it. And so understand that I don't know why something else took you 7 months versus what we've been doing. But it is not that Chris, the town attorney and myself and others met for 1 hour. We have literally been talking about this thing for months. It really was. And I would go as far as to say, we probably put more hours in on this subject than than what your group may have done for the 7 months, because it's that important to move it forward. We had king tides recently and 18 inches of water on that street underwater. So it has to get solved. And last thing I'll say, and then I need to give it back to the electeds. The last thing I want to say is that the other reason we are here is because your town engineer has done a great job of getting permitting started. And we have submitted with Army Corps and received, and we have submitted with South Florida Water Management and received comments. And our answers to those comments must be in this month, or we start the process again, which means that we will be starting again, and the process for permitting with South Florida Water Management will be another 3 to 6 month delay.
So I think, I appreciate what Christie and Michelle have done. I think it's a pretty clever solution to a problem. And I've been on the commission, I think, since 2015, you were there beforehand. The battle over easements, I think, has only come up twice, and one time it was the same property. So it's not like a town-wide issue we have here.
Until people see a loophole that they are
Well,
able to
but there
know.
won't be a loophole. You see what I mean? If we don't give the easement, they don't have the increased FAR. I understand what Caroline's saying, which I kind of agree with, that maybe we should slow down a tiny bit here, but you're saying we expire in December, right? If we don't get this done.
The permitting process does. So we want to be able to submit the first reading along with the permitting process to show that we have moved forward.
So
At the end of the day, this is your policy.
Do we
well,
all?
let me,
do we also have to-
if I may, as I'm speaking now as a resident of Harbor Drive North, and having spoken to a number of other residents, when it floods on that street, it's dramatic. And it can affect a lot of activities. And I happen to be at the low point, so I get the brunt of the lake effect. But the reason we were looking at this easement was so we could move the water off of the street, at least on a high tide, and clear the street instead of retaining the water. And all this other stuff is kind of peripheral to the problem on Harbor Drive North. I mean, we've got a resident who's got us over a barrel, but I think we need to remember why we're trying to do this. And
Forest through the tree.
Right.
Dave, I agree with you. I just want to make sure we don't do something that gets us, that solves this expediently, but then bites us in the ass later.
Right,
Well,
it's
can we-
very rushed.
All right, how many properties could this
Right,
possibly
exactly.
affect?
You don't
Christie?
know.
You do know.
Intercoastal
Hold
properties.
on. The only way that anybody could get this easement is if the town required an easement. The only way. There's no other way. Okay, that's it. That's what the ordinance specifically says. Okay, so how many easements does a town actually need? And then to your point about the right of way. Now, I'm the owner and I don't care if you abandon right of way. But the town needs that easement. Now, if I don't sign that easement, then we can abandon everything you wanted to abandon. But if I don't care, I'll just sit on it.
So what's
I'll
the
Do what I want to do. There's got to be a way to create a point in time that you have to get something accomplished. You have to make a deal. And I think the point is that town attorney and the town manager came with, I mean, to me, this is an excellent idea because of the amount of so few properties it could possibly affect. And the fact that it has the whole point of it, there's no way you can even do this without the town needing an easement. And how many times have we needed an easement in this town? But you're willing to rather abandon a complete right of way. You'd rather do that than say, okay, a guy can have 500 square feet more in his house? No, I wouldn't rather. I mean, to me, this is a much better idea than abandoning a right of way, the whole street, because of one guy has an extra 500 square feet.
Well, they did it on
one-
Harbor Drive South years ago, right? Is that
We did that because they built the Harbor Ocean Estates next door. That was why they did that. It had nothing to do
This
with
would
this.
solve, this one homeowner has a noose around our necks that if you don't pass this, you don't get your easement. So
That's
why
correct.
not abandon the right of way, get him close to what he's seeking in his square footage?
I don't know where you're coming from. You're
Because
trying
we
to
don't
put
want
yourself.
him to be sitting up here, you know,
There's no,
10 years from now when there's some wacky request.
But
And when there's,
the only request would be an easement for the town. The town would be requesting it. It says, hey, we need an easement. You're not, I'm trying to understand. I understand what you're saying, that this guy, we got a noose around the town. It's like, no, he understands he's in a good position. And he's in a good negotiating position. And the town needs his easement. And we've been doing this project for 3-4 years now, trying to do it. We tried the right of way thing. They're not going to do the right. They're going to try the dock, by the way. The dock, the town, kind of like gave the dock to Joyce when, I don't know how, when was that? That's when you were on commission too. So the whole point is that we have to get something done so we don't lose the permit from the South Florida Management District. You're going to extend the whole thing by 6 months. So do you want me to tell everybody on my street who complains vociferously about the flooding on the street that we didn't do it because we wanted to give that guy 500 more square feet? I'm not willing to do that. And I don't think this ordinance is going to literally change that much in the town to where somebody's going to come in and somehow, some way, create the town and make an easement. No, the town has to create that
it's giving
easement.
him 1,000 square feet more. That's a big,
I
big
don't think it's
house.
that.
It is.
Christie, it's
I
1,000
did the
square
math.
feet.
Look at what I did.
I know what you did. I see what you did. I appreciate that you're working. But how many,
Well, the calculation that I did before, based on the previous numbers, would afford him about 500 square feet of floor area ratio,
At 42.
which is a different calculation than a straight 1,000 square feet.
You're talking 42%.
so we're
Right,
we're kind of
going to the max, and now he's only going to the 41%. So it's even less.
all right.
The other,
However, the mechanism here to get this actual additional FAR is only if the town was trying to get an easement. Is that correct? That's the only way. So how,
Yeah, we have to-
how would somebody find a
The-
loophole?
well, that's what I was saying about the history of the commission. How many times have we done this?
You can't predict the future. That's my point.
I
That
can
we have to
I
be
can predict the
stewards
future on
of
one
the
thing,
green.
that the ocean, I can predict this future, that we'll be in 18 inches, maybe even 20 inches of water if we don't start doing something about it, because we've been dealing with this thing now for years. Okay, and we have the money, and we're literally just saying, okay, it's 500 square feet. There's a mechanism here that we've created, or actually we can create it. The town manager and the town attorney create a mechanism to do it to where the town dictates when you can get this floor area ratio. I don't know. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I mean, and I'm living it
I
right
know
now.
you're living it,
Dave lives it
obviously.
more than I do,
Two
because
of you are
literally it's
living.
18 inches of water. So I have a picture of me with a tape measure.
Mr. Mayor.
So the thing is, you have to sometimes, I would concede a little bit to get so much more.
Well, I would say if anything, we should look at reducing those percentages because this is just, it's too much.
Right now, this is, I guess, the deal is on the table. Is that
And,
correct?
and that's not fair to
Christie,
shove it down our throats.
We're not
And
shoving down your throats.
We are.
I think that Dave has a good idea with the fact that it should stick with the original homeowner. I think that's a very good point. It
Yeah,
should
yeah.
stick to that original homeowner.
I think a reasonable compromise would be to approve this subject to Christie tightening up the language so that it doesn't have an unintended consequence. of
how much tightening can
passing
you do
through.
before a
Well,
second read? Christie,
I'm sorry.
did you hear what Ana said?
Yeah, but I mean, we can do that in quick order, so
Well,
it can be.
Yeah,
we
but that
reduce
won't
the
delay us
percentages.
beyond the permit, right?
Well, yeah, it will delay us beyond the permit. We'll just have to talk to South Florida Water Management District about where we are in the process with this and see if they'll give us a little bit more time.
if we specify in this meeting that we're just going to do what Dave said, which is make sure that it doesn't carry on to successive.
And I suggested maybe we can look at reducing the percentages.
Well, was that the deal on the table? You give him the homeowner, what you have now?
He doesn't need the 42%. That gives him 5,200 square feet. That wasn't what he submitted.
Well, based on
you
what
should
he's
tell-
submitted,
He's on a quarter acre lot. It's a lot.
based on what he submitted, we could reduce the initial up to 42% to 41%. That is assuming that the final calculation the zoning official does keeps it at 41%. And then subsequently reduce as the square footage of the lots go up, keep bringing down the proposed FAR.
All right, well, I mean, negotiation, negotiation. So if you're willing to see if you can negotiate out, but if he sticks to his guns, it's kind of a moot point.
It's 100 feet.
But that's right. I know.
So
You see what I'm saying?
can't we just, all agree that we'll let him have that amount so that we can get this deal done? But just make sure we tighten up the language so that we don't have some unintended consequences.
I agree with that. I mean, let's see what the public has to say. Any public comments, Stella?
Stella Cole, 204 Beachway. Couldn't you do this on a one-to-one basis? Like if I needed
I asked
it?
that. Yeah.
No, you can't do that? Why?
Well, it kind of is, right? Because we have
Well,
to
no,
request
we
that.
have-
No, it's not.
If there's so few that we have in town, in the past, say 10 years, we've only done like 2 or 3. Then 2, okay, then it makes no sense to make a whole ordinance about it. And although I don't want a whole blanket ordinance, you do what you have to do, but the most important thing to me is those people who are paying taxes already and are living in a place that's flooded all the time, if we have to concede 100 feet, I don't know, I don't know that that would make much sense to your taxpayers, homeowners, and neighbors.
The other thing
It's
take
not
into
100
account
feet.
is
It's
that,
not 100 feet, what is it?
1,000.
no, the
Oh.
difference between 41 and 40.
Yeah.
You remember at some point, the town engineer created a means of doing this without the easement, without the right of way. And do you remember how much construction that took? It
Oh, it
was
was-
ripping
it
up
was-
the entire road, ripping up the lawns out to the, it actually did a circle around the entire.
And increase the cost of the whole thing by almost,
It would have cost a fortune.
so.
I think
Christine,
this-
you have something to say?
You didn't call for public comment, did you?
I
Terry Brown.
figured it's,
My comments focus only on the abandonment of the 10 feet that's there. Used to be 20 feet because it was Thompson Street from the Atlantic Ocean to the intercoastal, just like Porter Street from the Atlantic Ocean to the intercoastal. The county, I didn't check the public record how they did it, but they took their 10 feet on that split, right?
Correct.
So you're only talking 10 feet. And there used to be a statute that said if a municipality or a government entity had no plans for the use, like no plans for utilities, no plan for electrical, no plan for a road, because it's a road right of way, then if it's a request by the property owners, it should be abandoned. Is that a clear picture of it?
That statute, I believe, has been repealed and they leave it entirely up to the local government to decide whether or not to abandon.
But if it's not in a plan to use for any infrastructure purpose, then it should be abandoned. It's not of use to anyone. There's already pool decks, walls, fences that are being used right now in the right of way. So, I mean, this argument that you're gonna use it for something as a leverage against this property owner because he's gonna get extra feet doesn't make sense, in my opinion. You gotta do horse trading, and this is an example of where you gotta do it.
all right, Christine. Put your hand up, but
Planning Commission, 29 Sable Island Drive. Red letter day, I agree with every comment that's been said tonight, and this is one of these difficult decisions that you can see both sides and you're like, okay, which is which? The one thing that I have to say from a 30,000 foot, and I don't live on the street, although I do live on a street that floods quite often. And I don't know the property owner. I don't know how contentious he's been or how many loopholes he's tried to jump through. Which I understand personally kind of gets under your craw is anytime you mess with the FAR, I think it's a really slippery slope. Whether you're doing it for one homeowner or only because of an easement or only on a certain street. This has always been one of my big bailiwicks, is that I believe that the character of our town is based on the fact that we don't have these Boca McMansions that extend as far as they can and go as high as they can, and they're as square as they can. So I think that there might be a different solution to this. I don't think an ordinance for one or two or even 5 property owners in the future is necessary. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. So Christy, please forgive me. But I think it's overreaching, and I think take a little step back. I know you don't want to miss a deadline in terms of permitting, but I also know that DEP and some of them can be negotiated with also. So I feel like that deadline is kind of a false deadline that's being used maybe on behalf of the property owner to kind of push this through, quickly yank it. If I hadn't gone online 2 days ago and read the agenda, I would have never known about this. And, you know, FAR to me is sacred. And I understand flooding, believe me, I've got it too, but the law of unintended consequences, you're right on the mark with that. The other thing I want to see is if you do move something forward, is to make sure that it is a town easement only. In the north end of town, we're dealing with FPNL and they're looking for easements for their particular transformers and anything else like that. So you have to make sure that it is an easement that's very tight and very specific to what's going on. I'm also concerned that these easements don't transfer to the next guy. And to Terry's point, I mean, if it's not a true easement and we've got all this kind of old stuff on the books, clean it up before you pass this. Clean it up, because if not, when that property, that 1960, that 1970 house like mine goes up for sale, somebody's gonna take advantage of it.
Thank you. So back to the commission. So,
Can I just add something?
absolutely.
This commission and hopefully future commissions has no intention of changing FAR. We're talking about 2 properties over the course of like 10, 15 years. And the FAR would only increase for the specific properties that the commission requests an easement from.
Correct.
So we're not talking about a general population or a lot of homes being affected here. We're talking about I'd be surprised if in the next 10 years, there were more than 1 or 2 requests for an easement from the town to the property.
So I have a
So
question.
that's the only thing that triggers the FAR. The word FAR gets everybody ratcheted up. I don't consider this a FAR question at all. It's that people are gonna use this as a slippery slope to then say, well, I want 42% as well. Because they don't have the ability to.
I'm just saying, in the future, there could be someone sitting up here that agrees to, you know, shake someone's hand and say, we're gonna make sure we get an easement. So you
Well,
can
there
build what
could
you.
be people sitting up here 5 years from now that decide to increase the FAR to 48%. So
I mean, yeah,
So I have a
It's all
question for
conjecture.
Right.
Christie and for staff. Has anyone looked at, so this is really, we don't have utility. It's not like we need to get to FPNL lines. It's intercoastal properties, right? Where we're gonna need drainage outfalls. That's the sole intent, correct? Isn't that the sole intent for where we need drainage outfalls? So is there any home under construction or in development and plans are being reviewed that have submitted plans that, ooh, like Bimini Cove, that we might need an easement right there? They're gonna come back after they're already in process and say, wait a minute, I could have built a bigger house. Like, is there any situation? Like, has anyone looked at that?
I'll speak first and then so Christy actually sits on that board, so she's better to give you a futuristic view, but I do want to share with you a couple things. So this discussion is so great. It's good governance happening, like in the moment. I just want to like applaud you all because this is something that doesn't happen everywhere. And so I just wanted to take a moment and say, good job. It's good conflict, and truly that's what good governance is. So I wanted to start there. I think that you will have more of these in the future. So I believe that the Planning and Zoning Board, which really hasn't been mentioned, did a great job of vetting this when they had their last meeting. And when they vetted it, they started talking about, you know, the 2 properties that they know of and that we know of as staff that have currently drainage that has been identified that we would love an easement from, because they already have pipes in the ground underneath. And so we do know that there are two properties that probably we'll discuss in the near future, next 2 years, is what I would say. But I want to say that those two properties probably won't be the only ones, because this is a coastal community and the water's getting higher. And so as the water gets higher and more properties are being developed, we're identifying areas where easements need to happen in order to get the water out. Well, we know that we've heard from people on Coconut that still have issues, and, we may need to identify something there. So it's going to be probably an annual issue. If your staff is doing the job that we should be doing, we should be able to say to you, hey, here's a list of properties that we think we're going to have to watch for, because it's getting deeper there as the tides are coming up. So I don't want to say it's going to be one for the next 10 years.
All right, so let's recap. So the recap is for Chrissy to go back and look at, see if she can do some negotiating, and show you too on the percentage. The idea of keeping it only to one homeowner.
It's not transferable.
Not transferable.
Has anyone looked at the property size of all these intercoastal properties, like above 20,000 square feet? How many are there? Like, are we gonna be looking, if you're saying there are gonna be quite a few in the future, we're going to have a massing issue on the intercoastal?
No, I don't think that that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, you asked, how will we know? And I'm letting you know that you have a couple of identified properties that are coming before your P and Z board that your engineer has identified and spoken to those homeowners and property owners and said, you have pipes underneath your property. Those pipes have been there for decades. They probably are owned by the town, but they just have always been there. So we would like you to give us this easement. A property owner says, I just had a survey. They weren't identified. This is my property. I don't want to do that. And so something like this might be the incentive that would work to get them to give the pipe, so that that entire neighborhood is then has the additional benefit. So that's where this is a service. It's a give and take. It's not just for it shouldn't be for one property owner to have to solve the issues of an entire neighborhood. And if they decide, I want to step forward and be able to offer that opportunity, I mean, as a person that owns property myself, I would like to speak about, incentives. Other cities and other towns pay people $20,000 at a time sometimes and more. And there's been talk at the legislative side of exemptions. I mean, this is forever, because people don't want to give up property. So this is, again, just an option. This is an ordinance. An ordinance can be changed. If you move into a direction and you say, you know what, this doesn't work, this isn't working, you revert some of the percentages if you needed to do that, or you can just identify it as, not working and revoke it.
It just, the percentages seem to be entirely driven off of needing that 42% or that 11,000 something square foot lot. And it backs up, scales back from there. And it just, you made a comment before about the ordinances in 2023, why they took 7 months. It wasn't for lack of diligence or professionalism or anything. It was because it took a lot of time to make sure we got it right.
Right.
And this just seems like we are rushing through first reading, first time we've seen it. And we aren't sure we have it right? We're asking Christie to look at some other things.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, so the ordinances that we did in 2023 to address the non-conforming lots on Old Ocean, the first several months of that project was the property owner proposing text amendments that planning and zoning did not approve. There was also a period prior to that where they went forward for a variance. And the problem with the variance, which is why this can't be just a one-off, when you're redeveloping property, you don't meet the hardship requirement for a variance. Maybe economically you do, but that's not enough. You need to meet a hardship showing that for some reason your lot is not buildable. They're always buildable. So variances won't work. So this property at 62 Harvard Drive North couldn't get a variance from FAR. Other properties couldn't get a variance from FAR. So you either have to do it as an ordinance that would be available to everybody if the conditions are met, in this case being the town requests an easement. So there's a little bit of a difference between this scenario versus what we did on Old Ocean. Now, keep in mind, Old Ocean, we not only changed the FAR, we changed setbacks. We changed some of the lot coverages so that they could squish a larger home on those smaller lots. So what this is doing is, yes, allowing for an increase in FAR, but as Planning and Zoning Commission, I think rightfully noticed, with only changing FAR, it's still a little bit of an architectural feat to be able to design a property that you only really get an increase in FAR, but you're still meeting your setbacks, your lot coverage, and your other requirements. So I'm happy to go back and look at it farther and look at further calculations and see if the property owner that we currently need the easement from is willing to go down further. Happy to do all those things for the commission. It's at your pleasure. I just need that direction.
Well, I believe you have that direction. I also believe that we have messed with the FAR, as town attorney has said. We've also done it, and we did the overlay in the south end of town. We made the setback smaller. We created more property. So we do it, when we change these rules, we change them to the betterment of the town and the betterment of the property. This particular ordinance, though, it seems the only mechanism to even use it is if the town asks you for the easement. So I don't understand why we keep saying that, okay, I have this property and I'm gonna utilize this ordinance. You can't. Unless the town specifically asks you for that
The town
easement.
has to trigger it.
It has to.
Yeah.
All the things you're talking about over the overview, that overlay in the south end and what we did in 23, those were because of specific properties that met these criteria that made them non-conforming. It was challenging.
But you're
This
saying the
is a
same thing.
blanket
This
ordinance
is
for
just a
any
very
property in
specific
town.
property that we need. You just made your own argument. This is a very specific property that we need. The town needs, literally needs. So you can either make the agreement with the person and try to come up with an idea, which to me is an extremely good idea, or you try to do an eminent domain on the property. So.
Actually,
and
this
then-
just
and then-
sparked a
then
question.
I got the other question I have though. The other thing I was thinking about is you're saying 10 or 20 years down the road. So you would rather give a complete right of way away. So, but you don't know what's going to happen 10 or 20 years down the road with that property behind.
We might need
Harbor
it for
Drive?
stores.
No, you
You-
can't put a sewer back there.
You,
There,
but
what
you
is-
see the thing is, you can't say
No.
can't because there's always a can. There's always a way, a possibility of doing something, always. So in the short term here, what are we really looking at? We're looking at a street that's been flooding for years. It's getting worse. The only place that the street actually drains is Dave Hutchins' drain, which is his own drain. Okay, so we've been dealing with that and cleaning it out and doing everything we could to keep that. When it rains, we go out there and we clean the leaves off it. And then we have another one that's up the street that actually is a town that is, it's not a, what did the town engineer say it was, 8-inch pipe? It turns out to be a 4-inch pipe. So there's nothing else there. We have nothing else. So this is a way, mechanism to get something done that's been needing to get done for years. So in this particular instance, I think we can at least agree to have town attorney look at the situation you're talking about with the percentages. And then having it only as a one homeowner sign off. So that you can't, because that property has had a history of people getting a variance and then trying to, literally the next day trying to sell. I can tell you the whole thing of that, but that property has been there for a long time. And the sense of people buying it, and it's kind of an completely odd shape, and it's hard to build on it. But anyway, we had a guy who did the variance, bought it, got the variance, the next day put it on the market and sold. But he didn't know that people bought it, didn't realize that the variance expires.
So the other thing, is, when
I
we
have a
did
question
the
for Chris.
overlays, that was
Right.
to the benefit of those particular homeowners. The only benefit to the town was tax, perhaps they built bigger houses. The way this is set up is a huge benefit to the town, particularly that neighborhood. So we're
Right, we're
doing
getting
something
value.
similar to what we've done in the past to help out homeowners, where the town actually gets a direct benefit, that whole entire neighborhood gets a benefit. I
When
don't
we
have a
did-
problem with this at all. And the other thing, we keep on saying, let's add this, let's do some more work on this. But I believe, and maybe I misunderstood my staff meeting, that if this expires with the South Water Management District or whatever that, whether that's involved in all this, there's a chance that we also will lose the window of our current drainage system.
That's correct. So if we approve. this-
Explain that?
Current drainage system is ultimately ends up in the intercoastal. That is being reviewed. And if we lose that ability, we're screwed. And
That's
we
just
have to
all
have it in place.
brand new news to me. I don't know what you mean. And Christie, when we did those ordinances in 23, the one that addressed specifically those properties, the ordinance itself had PCNs in it. That is another approach. Is it not?
Correct, because we knew specifically the non-conforming lots up there. But in this scenario, one of my concerns is every time a property comes up for redevelopment, town engineer does a review and says, oh, there's facilities under your property. Now we'd have to go amend the ordinance if we request an easement from those folks.
Well, once we have it, it would be pretty quick to amend it now that we know what we're doing.
You just have to go through 2 readings every time. So that would be a 2-month delay on a property owner going through the
So you
development.
see in the ordinance, we could identify the exact properties that we're talking about. And then if we need another outfall, when we need another outfall in the future, we can amend the ordinance.
Yeah, but wouldn't we be asking for that easement then?
You're requesting the easement anytime.
That's a
No,
good,
only-
good
only
idea, but is that legal? To make an ordinance for one home?
Well, no, I mean, you start to get into what's called contract zoning. So normally you don't do an ordinance that just addresses one specific property. Usually there's either an area, or in the case of the Old Ocean overlay we addressed several properties that were non-conforming and a way to make them conforming, which is similar to the other overlay that's down at the south end. In this case, if we were just going to address 62 Harbor Drive North, I would be a little concerned with that's contract zoning. And that's the reason why this is drafted as being available for everyone who town requests an easement, who gets development plan review. And just because they're guaranteed this sort of additional maximum FAR, planning and zoning doesn't have to approve it. Planning and zoning can say the massing's wrong. We need you to change this. We need you to change that. So ultimately, they're not guaranteed. Nobody's guaranteed under this ordinance a maximum FAR. And then keeping in mind the other parameters that they still would have to meet under the code in terms of height, all the other things we've talked about. There are some balancing factors here to try to prevent this from being a blanket that everybody can use to increase the FAR in the town. But I'm
And
happy
they
to.
can't because in fact that the town has to replace theirs.
Yeah, I have to say, my concerns are covered as long as it has to be the town commission that triggers the easement in the first place.
Well, it's
Because we're only gonna do it when we
No, it's
think the
not.
town gets value.
Staff-
Well, we could change the ordinance right now and take town permission.
No, the town commission has to ask for the easement.
The way it's written now is this would be something that gets discovered in usually development plan review, or should the town engineer design another drainage project where we need to go to a property owner and say, hey, we need an easement. We can change the ordinance to require the official request to come from the town commission. But again, I just mentioned being aware of having one meeting a month. And if you're a property owner, having to wait for that request and things like that. But not a problem. I can certainly add that to the ordinance.
But
That
doesn't
solves
this,
your problem.
now, we did not have any mechanism in the town ordinances whatsoever for the town to be able to do this before, in the sense of asking for easement. So doesn't this now give a mechanism for the town to do that and really, like somebody said here, clean up the books and stuff? So this gives a mechanism for the town to actually be able to say, okay, we have an ordinance. So then we want to get a piece of property that we're going to put a pipe under, to increase, get an easement for, we can go to the homeowner and offer them this
Offer them something other than money,
bonus.
which is.
Other
what a
than
lot of
money, which
companies
I'm
do.
not crazy about that, but you can really hold somebody out.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the commission. Let's make it, so basically we have the two items.
No, well, maybe Christie can go over those again. And can we put in something about the town commission being involved in those requests?
Make the request.
I would disagree with.
Well,
I mean,
No, we have to make. the
Because
request.
right now we're learning about
the
all
staff
of this.
requests.
We're learning about all of this and the time crunch at a meeting where we're expected to approve the first reading.
Mr. Mayor. This town commission is not staff. Please do not try to get into the operations, day-to-day operations. You'll regret it, I promise.
No, we should
This is
be
executive
setting,
level.
we should be setting policy, but how about this? How about, and I could live with this. If we just make it clear in the preamble, I don't know, when I was in law school, we called it the legislative history or whatever, but if we said it's the intent of the town commission that this would be rare, but that if the planning and zoning commission deems it necessary, they can go ahead and trigger it. But with making it very clear that this is not to be handed out like Easter, like it's, Easter eggs or something. I could live with that.
Simple.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, this is a question for the town attorney. So in the same way that we, along the way, as staff, can move money within certain parts of the budget and then come back to you mid-year and do one budget amendment where you could see where money has been moved, there may be an opportunity for the town attorney to add in there that periodically the commission gets to see the approvals that have happened over the course.
See
of
if
a
we need to
certain time.
change the course.
Right,
Yeah.
so that way, if you see, say at a 6-month mark or a annual mark, like during budget time, you see what's happened in the last year. And that would give you an opportunity to understand if staff is utilizing the
That's great.
tool correctly.
That gets me across the
Then we
line.
can change.
Yeah.
Change the
Yeah,
website.
if it
You
looks
got
like
that,
it's
Chris?
having unintended consequences,
Yeah,
we can
do you-
change it.
So what are the big items Christie has to hit? That's one that John just mentioned.
The,
Abe's exploding,
single owner approval and then the amount of percentage.
But the percentage right now is at 41 on the property that is driving.
That's the negotiations.
What's that 41? Huh.
I have a question
If you're
about,
negotiating.
I'd say no, that's right.
So
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I just have a question. With the one owner, so if somebody else buys the home after the home is built, that will
It will not transfer.
and then how will we have access to the easement?
Well, no,
I know.
I think what the intent is, the easement will be perpetual, right? And as long as the home remains as it's developed, then it would transfer. They're not gonna tear down the house and keep that. But if it ever gets redeveloped, that incentive is no longer available. Or if someone gets approved for the incentive, we get our easement, but they ultimately don't construct, it expires along with.
Very good. So the
Well,
easement is in perpetuity.
They're
No, but-
increased far.
So. We'll have today, so somebody builds that house. Right? And they get the 42%. Now it is with just the property and the house already built. Now, if I tear down that house and I build a house, do I get the same 42%?
And you're a new owner?
I think you have.
Do you see what I'm saying?
You'd have
No, but so
Yeah.
why don't we just attach it
So-
to the deed? That that only goes like with the deed restriction, like we did with, like we're trying to do with the one-story houses, idea we have about. If you want to build a one-story house and we'll decrease the rear setback, so you can build a bigger one-story house, but it's only,
Reduce the massing, I just want to point out.
that was my idea, but anyway. That is to literally, that would be a deed restriction on that house, in other words. So that, so the new buyer came in and decided, okay, I'm gonna buy that house, buy it all. And I tear it down, do I get the same floor area ratio?
You'd have to.
But you could do a deed restriction on just that, couldn't you?
A deed
Well, you
restriction that the new house can't have.
You could have the easement and the easement will be perpetual, but whether or not the incentive runs with the land is the question. So if you said that the incentive runs as long as the structure remains in its developed FAR, that it continues to exist. However, if the structure is substantially improved, which we have a metric for, then they would have to be built to the existing floor area ratio without
Right.
the incentive.
So basically, I could build a house. And then sell it the next day to somebody who says, oh, I can build something different, you get the same floor area ratio. I don't think that, I think it would be better to keep it just to that house. And who knows?
To that owner, yes, I'm talking about, not that house, talking the owner.
Correct.
Well,
The owner.
or if the
The
successor,
deed.
The deed, it would be deed
but
restriction.
as long as they don't
deed
tear down the
transfer,
house,
it
it's
goes
okay.
away.
Yeah, we're not gonna make them tear the house down.
No, I'm
Right.
just saying
Yeah.
that somebody may, and then.
If
what
they
the
do, then
42%.
they have to
And we already
live
have
by the
these,
new
with
rules.
easement protection. All right,
So
so
I can live with that.
let's go back, let's do a vote.
When the trail
How do
closes.
we
Well,
vote on
someone
this,
has to make a motion.
We already did.
So the,
But we just
the
have to
four,
amend
the four
accept
items
it.
that I have to
Hold
look
on.
at to
Amend the
include
Hold on a second.
is a preamble regarding the limited use in the PNC commission review. That we would provide a periodic approval and request to the town commission on how often the ordinance is utilized. Tighten up language on the condition precedents, including the whether or not the incentive runs with the land. And further negotiations with 62 Hard Drive North to see where we can potentially lower the percentages.
Well, across the board, reduce the percentages.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to amend your motion?
I don't think I'm capable with all that. Can I just, so, as amended,
As amended. Attorney, and the second, you have to amend your second as
Second.
well.
I second all that.
Okay. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Great discussion. All right, moving on to town manager.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I provided you an update in my agenda, and other than that, I would say it's been a great 2025 as we are moving into 2026. I'm looking so forward to it, and happiest of holidays to everybody up here and everybody that's watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christie?
I do not have a report tonight, but also happy holidays.
Thank you. Chief?
Sir, the report is in your package. As you know, they've been very active in enforcement and preventing crime. I will say just one reminder. Officer Deb is collecting toys last week for her annual toy drive. You can drop off 4 more week, and Light the Lights is this Friday.
We've had the
Just the-
collection of toys at Light the Lights, so we can encourage people to bring them. Yeah,
What time's like?
Okay.
5 to 7.
5-7.
All righty, town commissioner
I'll be the
comments.
friend.
Commissioner Cass.
Okay, I attended, I'm sure all of you have heard now about the discussion about the elimination of ad valorem taxes. I attended the county commissioners workshop last week where they were discussing this, and Toby Overdorf presented. He's the representative who was the chair of the review committee appointed by the governor to work on this all summer. Right now, there were until today 8 joint resolutions being considered in the House. And today they reduced it to 4 that they're moving forward. One is the elimination of all not homesteaded ad valorem taxes. The other one is if you have homeowners insurance that you don't have to pay ad valorem taxes. Another one is for those over 65 not having to pay ad valorem taxes. All of this is if you're homesteaded. And also the last one is Toby Oberdorf's. This was his resolution, which is portability of your homestead exemption. So I'll be in Orlando this week for the legislative conference, and we're going to be talking about our advocacy efforts as a league in protecting our municipal rights to collect ad valorem taxes. So it's going to be a big battle. It's going to be a very, very interesting and unprecedented session. Absolutely.
Thank you. Steve?
Over 65.
Yeah.
Steve?
The other way around.
Yeah.
Hopefully a fun little discussion. I've talked to, town manager Michelle about this. An Ocean Ridge flag to, fly on our flagpole. Everyone seems to like the idea that I've mentioned it to. And, the question is what to put underneath the town logo. Established in 1934.
Must be something we'd have to kind of
Yeah,
banter about.
Yeah.
So the emblem's gonna be the turtle, just like the,
the turtle like the town logo. Yeah, one on the website. So do you want to discuss it now? You want to think about it, bring it up at
Let's
the
think
next?
about it.
Let's think about it.
Just the tagline that would go at the bottom. Okay, second thing, last meeting, blight came up. And we are actually moving forward on that. I'm sort of spearheading something. I wanted to sort of alert the commissioners who perhaps aren't aware of this. Working with Michelle, Christie, Eric Brief, the gentleman that stood up, myself, the town code enforcer and the town building official, to try to come up with a definition of blight that works for Ocean Ridge. We're not trying to do anything draconian. We're not trying to be arduous on the homeowner, but there are certain properties in town that either the codes need tightening to cover that, to get rid of that blight, or we need a few new codes. So we're taking a look at that. For various people have called me after that meeting. We are taking a look at that. So that's it.
Great.
I
I
have,
like-
I have one more little thing. I'm so sorry. I forgot. Is that okay? So I was approached by the Garden Club about having the year 2026 declared the year of the orchid in Ocean Ridge. What they've gone ahead and done is they prepared a draft resolution proclamation for our consideration. And this is Elisa Garcia, and she's willing to work with Christie on, and she's drafted the whole resolution, but she's happy to work with Christie on fine tuning it. Is everybody okay with that? We have the year of the orchid.
What
Why
do you,
not? Why not?
Love
what if you should tie something to it?
What?
Like, town or festival or something?
We'll leave it to them.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank Starbright for their party they put on, and we got the new drone, and we had the drone flying outside. And I want to say thank you for that. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Starbright. Also want to say, don't forget our Light the Lights and also our tree, Christmas tree from Garden Club has been put up. And our Light the Lights this Friday. That's really good of an out. Are we doing when you hit the thing like this, or is it a button again? What's that? What is the menu anyway? Same thing we always have.
did we get rid of that old box?
I like the old box with the light on it. That one?
Yeah, but when you hit the kid that's lucky enough to hit the button, you get like one little red light, one little green light. I thought we were improving.
Why, is there be something modern? Don't you like the old stuff, oldie goldie stuff?
Do we have
All right, well,
We have the photo booth?
Painter's exploding.
we should have a floating booth.
No,
All right, well-
photo booth.
A
not
photo
floating
booth. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll see you Friday night.
Yeah. By the way,
Meeting adjourned, I'm sorry. Oh.